This video is sponsored by you. Links to support the channel are in the description. Hello, Arknight's most hated YouTuber here. Once again wishing Gummy would squeeze her sweat-ridden socks into a cup, so that I may be blessed to be fortunate enough to be able to drink that sweet elixir. This is part 2 of my reviewing every operator series. You do not need to watch the previews. We will finish covering every launch operator today, meaning another 47 operators. This list also assumes the operators are at optimal levels and that you have an optimal account. Why, you may ask? I can explain it with this comment I got. Yeah, but I'm always the type of it doesn't matter how busted the limited op is, if you're not lucky or whale your way, it's still a limited op. AKA, if you didn't manage to get one, the non-limited option will be still the best option type of doctor. And to this I can only reply with, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Nice job, Officer Face, you really connected the dots on that one. Doing a legitimate review of operators forces you to either review them in a vacuum or review them considering all other options too. Because this is a gacha and every account is unique because of it. Every operator is the best operator if you only have them. We'll also be assuming you're a normal player not doing any niche nights. This also includes things like factions, so sorry Abyssal Hunters fans. This is because doing any niche is inherently worse than just playing the meta, even if your niche is really strong. 6 Abyssal Hunters with 6 meta operators will always be worse than just 12 meta operators, so they wouldn't matter for this list even if I mention them, because this list is about the meta. If I get anything wrong, say it and it will be included in the final video compiling everything together. Silverash was for a long time the best operator in the game, so how does he hold up now? He's still really good. Moinar stole away like 90% of his use cases, but Chris Redfield over here can still pull his own wave. S3's damage is up to modern day standards, and both his talents are amazing and give him irreplaceable niches. And thank God for these talents, because they're pretty much the only reason you're ever gonna use him anymore. A tier. Cliffheart is 1, the correct choice to continue the bloodline aside from Silverash himself, and 2, not that great. Hookmasters or pullers are kind of inherently bad. This is because they all essentially do the same thing, with very minor variations, which is pulling. And when the fuck are you ever gonna need pulling? However, Cliffheart does have an advantage over the others, by being given out for free for playing the game, and having true damage. This makes her kind of a sort of weird sniper with true damage sometimes, which is better than the other pullers that just pull E-tier. Pramanix is a very good debuffer in a vacuum, but unfortunately outclassed by every other debuffer. And it's weird, because her skill 2 debuffs are like some of the best in the game. She beats out both Shamare and Elysium. Thing is, those two offer more than just their debuffs. Shamare offers and she debuffs defense and attack on a really good uptime. And Elysium prints a shit ton of DP, removes invisibility and gives slow. The issue with Pramanix is that she only offers her debuffs. And also skill 1 is completely invalidated by her talent, that's like so weird. Still, her debuffs are really good, so B tier. Nightingale is absolutely bonkers, I'm not gonna beat around the bush, S tier. Watch this video for more details. Short of it is that she evaporates the concept of arts damage and gets 2 mini gravels, just because. She's the arts version of Shining, which inherently makes her a ton better because arts is a ton more of a threat. Eyjafjalla is also amazing. I don't know what I was smoking in the Siege video. Her role shifted over the years. Initially she was a boss killer with skill 3, but now she's more of an amazing sustained damage AoE caster with skill 2. Her module is amazing, it gives her a ton more damage, she's the best AoE caster while being a single target caster, and skill 3, while not being that good anymore compared to others, is still great. Just amazing all around. Bring her and she will never disappoint. Another S tier. Perfumer isn't that great, but not that bad either. Her main thing is the global passive healing, which can heal enmities. Paired with skill 2, this is actually a pretty solid amount of HP regen. Though her competition is absurdly steep, both Nightingale and Tilopsis. So C tier, just extremely unfortunate. Earthspirit is trash. Her skill 2 doesn't even work properly without the module. Without it, it's an intermittent slow rather than a permanent one. And even then, with the module, this shitty slow is all she offers. F tier. Mousse, even when Sutra exists, still has her own niche. She can permanently debuff the attack of an enemy. Given this niche isn't a very prominent one, but it's something unique to her. Her damage is okay, even decent with good RNG, and she's a real cutie. C tier. Gavial is an operator that exists. She doesn't do anything special. She's pretty good as an AFK medic with skill 1, but beside that it's void, and Warfarin skill 1 does it better. D tier. Plume is a 3-star, so say it with me, F tier. I shouldn't have to explain myself at this point. Unless 3 stars have a prominent niche in IS, they'll automatically be in F tier due to their nature. Frostleaf is the reason why in the intro I say optimal levels instead of max levels. This is because to date she's the only operator that becomes permanently worse when you E2. So the Frostleaf we'll review here is E1 max. Unfortunately she's still F tier. Her DPS is actually unironically worse than Midnight, and yes, it's still worse even at E2 max. All you get is pitiful damage and a shitty slow with awful uptime. She should have died against Frostnova. F tier. Istina is the only trans woman in Arknights. Don't look that up, just trust me. We stan Istina in this house. I will not accept Istina's slander. That being said, she's just Angelina, but worse. Still, she's not bad. Her talent's debuff to herself, while extremely stupid, isn't that big of a factor. Skill 1 is funny, skill 2 does actually very solid damage, and she does attack all the time, unlike Angelina. C tier. And now is the moment you've all been waiting for. Gummy. I am not joking when I say there is no other person on Earth that is more qualified to review Gummy than me. I beat high risk with this operator. I have used her in every stage since I began playing. So first of all, I swear to God I am not joking, hear me out, Saria doesn't power creep Gummy. Saria is the better operator anyway, but she isn't a direct power creep. Gummy has a unique niche within the Guardian Defenders, which is passive crowd control through a pretty reliable stun with the module talent, and she also heals above 50% HP, which, while a bad thing in most situations, does matter in some others. Specifically against enemies that deal more than 50% HP with a single attack to your healing target. Saria will heal them once and then stop, because now they are above 50% HP. In the scenario where Saria didn't manage to get them back to 100% HP with that singular heal, they will likely die at the next hit, or die soon enough anyway. Gummy, instead, will always heal them back to full using multiple charges, ensuring their survival, assuming there is enough time between attacks to charge those charges. Next, it's important that Gummy stuns specifically. Saria doesn't power creep her crowd control with skill 3. Exhibit A. Stultifera Navis. In this event, Gummy is unironically the best healing defender, because she can stun and remove the dodge from the enemies. Saria skill 3 can't fucking do that. This alone proves that Saria isn't a direct power creep, but let's keep going. Exhibit B. Any blocked enemy. Slow will not stop them from attacking, while Gummy, with good enough RNG, which honestly is not that hard to achieve, can stun lock slow attacking enemies like golems. So no, Saria and Nurl, let's throw in Nurl too, do not power creep Gummy. Let's talk about her stats. Gummy is deceptively tanky, especially with her module. She can survive a lot of shit you'd never think she would, like the Chapter 10 cannon and the Peterheim middle school incident. Here's a little quirk that, as far as I know, doesn't happen with any other operator. Gummy also gets worse when you E2 her, like Frostleaf, but only temporarily. This is because at E1 max, Gummy has a niche as a very cheap tank that can also heal at just 16 DP, which might as well be free. By E2ing, you increase her DP cost and thus remove this niche from her without much gain. However, at S1M3 she is better than E1 max, so a Gummy tier list theoretically would go something like from best to worst: E2 S1M3 mod 3, E2 S1M3, E1 max, and then E2 S1M0. Why am I mentioning this? Because technically, Gummy has 2 optimal levels, depending on what you want her to do. If you want her to be a very good tank with great heals, E2 S1M3 mod 3 her. If you want her to be a cheap early game tank, you can deploy like frame 1, E1 max her. But SUPAH, why doesn't Spot have this niche then? Because he's a 3-star and his one skill is the bad healing defender skill. And he's ugly! Have you seen that scrapped skin that never ended up releasing because the fanbase roasted it so hard? That didn't happen to Gummy. Her skin is perfect, right in the middle between cool and class. Next, her talent 1. We already talked about the stun, but the crit is also good. She does kinda decent damage, more than every healing defender not named Blemishine at least. With good enough RNG, she can, weirdly enough, lane hold a lane with weak fodder enemies until you place down an actual DPS to help her. Gummy's skill 1 is very simple, and you should M3 it, or I will rapidly approach your location. It gains 1 extra charge and 1 SP cost reduction, which yes, does matter a lot, beside obviously buffing her heal. Not much to say, it's just a reliable source of healing. Skill 2 is trash. Remember when I said Spot had the bad healing defender skill? This is the bad healing defender skill. It takes Nearl's bad skill and makes it even worse by giving it a 10-second charge before actually doing anything. Or does it? God, I sound schizophrenic, but you see, Nearl skill 2 is also not a power creep to Gummy skill 2, they do different things. This is because during the charge up, Gummy gets a chunky defense buff. Let's say there is an enemy that pulls up to her with skill 1 and she gets her ass beat. Well, use skill 2 and activate it when the enemy approaches so she has more defense and can now tank him. She will then proceed to heal all the damage back when she stops cooking, and by that time the enemy should be dead by the broken caster you put there with her. But then isn't Hank's skill the power creep that also increases his defense by the same amount? Well, no, you absolute clown! This is because Hank has a defensive recharge, which puts him in a whole other discussion compared to the others. If you want it to actually heal, yes, this is incredibly finicky, because you need to have Diavolo's Epitaph and see 10 seconds into the future to activate it in advance. But if you want to heal, you should be using S1 in the first place. Is this skill good then? No, I have only used it twice total, but both of those times was in high risk CC, so I guess that counts for something? Overall, Gummy is an incredibly solid tank that also has a reliable stun and solid DPS for her class. Still, Nerl and Saria are better for the average player. All the niches and odd tidbits I mentioned here will realistically never come up for a normal player that doesn't literally use Gummy in every stage. And at that point, it's kind of a niche night, like a Gummy night. So, at the end of the day, yeah, Saria and Nerl are way better operators. With all that said, she goes in EX tier. That's right, I am making a new tier. This is my video. I make the rules. I can do whatever I want. And I am also moving Nightingale here. Alright, that's over. Courier is kind of ass. Basically copy-paste what I said about Scavenger here. He's basically her defense-oriented version you will never need past chapter 3, E-tier. Matterhorn is pretty cool actually. His thing is just being damn near immune to arts damage. This gives him quite a solid niche. If Nightingale didn't give it to literally everybody. Still, it's something, and he's a decent tank. C-tier. Croissant is pretty neat. She has a resist like Hoshiguma, but can also give it to allies. She also has a push/stun niche with her skill too. Unfortunately, push is inherently situational. Still, she's nothing to scoff at and also gets the block 4 module. All in all, I'd say she's pretty comparable to Hoshiguma. Yes, Hoshiguma is a better tank, but Croissant does have some stuff over her. B tier. Saria is amazing. At the time of recording, Shu just got announced, so if she power crept Saria, I'd be really happy, but right now I have no idea. What even is there to say about Saria? She's a very simple unit, but excels at everything she does. Insane healing, wide range AoE heals, insane crowd control, and a big arts buff. And with a side of giving SP too. You literally can't go wrong with Saria. She's good in every stage. Yes, except the skill book stages. We get it, you're very smart. S tier. Platinum is a... Melantha is on the better end of the 3-star... Okay, I'm just kidding. Platinum is a solid anti-air sniper, and I will debunk a very common misconception here. I don't actually hate her. Platinum getting shot is just a running gag from the Near Light video. For all intents and purposes, Platinum is on par with Blue Poison, with the unique quirk of being buffed by ice stages. She deals more damage the lower her attack speed, which means the cold debuff is actually a buff, and her paradox simulation actually does showcase this, which is really cool. B tier. Okay, back on track. Melantha is on the better end of 3 stars. There's a reason she's in damn near every video Austin has ever published. She's probably the best 3-star for normal players. She's still an E tier though. Cardigan is pretty good for a 3-star too. She's good because of skill 1 and that's it. It gives her a very solid self-sustain for her rarity, making her somewhat usable in normal content too. E tier. Steward is kinda good in IS and that's it, E tier. Adnachiel isn't even good in IS because Cruz exists, F tier. Ansel is actually very good in IS. I did say he is a better option than Hibiscus and I stand by that. Yes, Hibiscus has a quicker heal animation, but literally when is that ever going to matter? If your strategy falls apart because Ansel's heal wasn't half a second quicker, the problem is with the strategy. E tier. Manticore is very neat too. She has amazing crowd control with skill 1, just perma-slowing everyone in her range by more than half. She can also become invisible after a while, which is cool, I guess. Ultimately though, her stalling abilities are mostly outclassed by Ethan. Still a B tier though, she's good. Meteorite is awful, can I not talk about her? RNG talent, awful module, decent at best skill 1 and absolutely dreadful skill 2. Also she's ugly, another victim of the Toki curse. F tier. Savage is also trash, guess what? Genuinely worse than Estelle. Her talent activation requirement was decided by a drunk developer also overdosing on Xanax, and it is also written wrong in the game. Where Estelle at least has decent self-sustain, Savage gets nothing but mediocre skills. E tier. Jessica is kinda miserable. For the same reasons as Firewatch's invisibility, the dodge on skill 2 isn't that worthwhile, and it costs way too much SP. Also, you should only really use her if you plan to E2, because until then, I shit you not, Cruz has better DPS. But this list counts her as max level, so at least she's E tier instead of F. With Rope, I want to make you realize that Hookmasters or Pullers are cursed from birth. All of them do the same thing slightly differently, and thusly, all of them are invalidated by Cliffheart's existence. And let me remind you again, when the f*** are you ever gonna need pulling? In fact, let's just get the entire class out of the way immediately. Rope, Snowsant and Almond all go in F tier. Gladiia goes in C tier actually, because this list does assume you have an optimal account, and she is better than Cliffheart if you build her for some reason. She has some amount of DPS, which does make her do something else beside pulling, but at that point, just use an actual DPS unit. Gravel is still good to this day. Texas and Yato Alters did not manage to power Creeper since they do completely different things. Though I will say, at least for me, anecdotally, her uses have diminished over the years. But still, she's basically fucking invincible while that shield is up. Her niche of being a distraction to soak damage so others don't get killed is still here, so beat her. Vanilla, she's a 3-star, and an awful one at that, F-tier. FEater is a pusher and nothing else. Pushers are a bit like pullers, but slightly better, since pushing is needed a bit more often. Unfortunately, Weedy exists, which is not only the best pusher, but actually a solid unit all around. So FEater has no use ever unless you somehow need 2 pushers. F-tier. Just like pullers before, let me go over Meyer and Magallan at once. Yes, it is true, they can do great things. They can basically solo or duo every stage in the game. But I would still consider them bad operators. Why? Because there is an insanely steep learning curve. That itself is not an issue, don't get me wrong. If an outstanding operator had a steep learning curve, they'd still be S tier. The issue is that by the time you're done reading 50 schoolbooks on the construction of Meeboos and learned the way of the penguin, it's still better to just use normal operators, meaning that yes, they can do great things if you learn them, but you have no reason to learn them in the first place, because normal operators are better. For a summoner to be good, they need to be like the actual best operator in the game. We'll get there when we get there. Though I can't just ignore Meyer and Magallan's achievements, so C tier. Shaw is FEater but worse, F tier. Orchid is very useful in IS because the starting set of vouchers that gives you thorns also gives you a support voucher, meaning if you run that, you'll be using her essentially every run. And she's not actually that bad in that mode, E tier. Lancet too, like the other robots, has a unique gimmick of not taking up deployment slots, but her heals are so pathetically small that it doesn't matter. F tier. Castle Tree has more merit compared to his medic friend. Yes, he's absolutely trash as a guard, but that talent is not bad at all. Just a buff to every melee operator on the map for 0 deployment slots. But you still only really use him if you have just nothing else to throw at your operators to buff them. E tier. Matoimaru is not that good, I am sorry Dempsey. However, she is better than Franca. No need to thank me, Dempsey. While their skill 2s are equally trash, Matoimaru once held the title for the highest HP in the game. And even to today's standards, she's pretty chunky. She can also self-sustain very decently. She's not good, but she's not Franca either. D tier. Vigna is good. In spite of being a 4-star, she deals a ton of damage. That skill 2 goes kinda crazy for her rarity. You can very well use her as a knockoff bagpipe without much issue. B tier. Angelina is very cool. The fact she doesn't attack is mitigated by very cheap SP costs, and her crowd control does not disappoint. Even to this day, if you need someone that can reliably slow multiple targets, or slow one target a lot, while also dealing good damage, she's the one you go to. She also has global passive healing, which makes me wonder what her part-time job is, wink wink, and can heal enmities. shame her modules are ass. But it's not like she needs them, A tier. And now, a 2-star lightning round. Noircorn, F tier. Durin has 50% arts dodge, but unlike 12F, there isn't any prominent use for this, F tier. Yato is a pseudo-fast redeploy, but that will never matter with stats like those, F tier. Rangers, F tier. And that's all for this part. Next time we'll review every Year 1 operator. Max out your Gummy. Please God, I believe I made a pretty convincing argument, right? Bye. Hi, thank you for watching. I am not joking when I say making this video had a bad toll on my mental health, so you better enjoy it. Here's the members, thank you. In particular, Noobpo, Lord Akio, Come to Brazil, and Chromchan but JJF. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll go kill myself.
After the other, over and over again, I was a new pen.